A winner over Oklahoma, 95-51. North Carolina over Syracuse, 83-66. Monday night, North Carolina the favorite against Villanova by a couple of points for the national championship. In progress right now on NBC television, it's the NHL, Chicago Blackhawks and the Boston Bruins. Late in the first period, just under 4 minutes to go, the Blackhawks have a goal. They lead Boston by a score of 1-0. NASCAR, they're getting ready to drop the green flag in a few moments. The Sprint Cup race at Martinsville has Joey Logano on the pole there. NBA 4 games ready to tip in just a couple of minutes, including Charlotte and Cleveland. This is NBC Sports Radio and the NBC Sports Radio mobile app.
From the KCAA Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jim Rinaldi. For this morning, a clear sky, sunny through the day today with a high of 84. Mainly clear tonight, a bit of a breeze, low 52. Monday's going to be sunny, high 82. Mainly clear Monday night, low 52. Tuesday, sunny, high 88. Wednesday, sunshine with temperatures approaching 90. Thursday, partly sunny with a chance for a shower, high 74. Partly sunny with a shower Friday, high 70. That's your weather forecast for this hour from KCAA, 106.5 FM and 1050 AM. The stations that leave no listener behind.
Get all the facts, all you need to know on KCAA Radio.
It's time for the KCAA Community Calendar, brought to you exclusively by Learn for Life.
I'm Mark Westwood with the KCAA Community Calendar. Join Time for a Change Foundation's 13th Annual Star-Studded Awards Gala honoring local community heroes, all in efforts to help homeless women and their families become self-sufficient. This year, orange is the new black star. Taylor Schilling will be present. So register today at timeforchangefoundation.org or help sponsor the event at timeforchangefoundation.org. This Star-Studded Awards Gala will be held Friday, April 15th from 6 till 9 p.m. in Ontario. Call 909-886-2994. And that's the KCAA Community Calendar on 1050 AM and 106.5 FM.
KCAA Community Calendar is presented exclusively by Learn for Life, where students can complete their education on a part-time basis. To find a resource center nearest you, call 1-877-360-LEARN.
Gotcha Racing Live, heard only on KCAA, is your command center for racing news, the hottest interviews, and DIY projects. Gotcha Racing Live. Start your engine and race on over to KCAA 1050 AM and 106.5 FM every Saturday at our new time, 11 a.m. Gotcha Racing Live, where we put you in the driver's seat.
Lifestyles Unlimited is the real estate investor education and mentoring group that has taken people by the hand and taught them how to invest in real estate for over 24 years. Our students have been so successful at creating wealth and passive income that they've won local, state, and National Investor of the Year awards 9 of the last 9 years. It's easy to see why Personal Real Estate Investor magazine named us the best in the U.S. If you're ready to add real estate to your portfolio, go to getmymapnow.com to access our free live training event schedule.
Wondering who the free workshop is for? We've been amazingly successful with people who are pressed for time. Doctors, lawyers, small business owners, and corporate professionals who are grinding their lives away for earned income and don't realize they can start creating passive income today within the confines of their schedules and commitments. Want to get started now? Go to mypassiveincomeworkshop.com. That's mypassiveincomeworkshop.com.
This is KCAA.
Good morning, good afternoon, good night, whatever time it is, wherever you are, it is time for Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen on the case for truth, justice, with the right information to help improve the situation. I'm excited, folks. Empire Talks Back today. We've got a great show for you. I want to remind you, Empire Talks Back is brought to you by West Side Story News, the soul of the Empire, and the Improve Association for referrals that are real. You can listen, folks. I know you're busy. I know that you may not have time to be stuck to the radio, and even if you're riding in your car, you may want to stop and get out. I just remind you that your telephone can hook you directly to this show no matter where you go. The listening is fine. The speakers work well if your phone works well. All you have to do is give us a call at let's do it right, 832-999-1050. Turn your telephone into a Empire Talks Back speaker. Believe me. Now, you can't talk to me, but you can hear me. It's 832-999-1050, and turn your phone into a traveling radio that you can enjoy and participate as a listener to the Empire Talks Back program. It's important today, folks. We're talking about education. We're talking about stopping the emergency, the state of emergency that you hear me discuss. You hear me talk often about the problem that occurs with our young black men, which ends up causing America a great deficit in energy and wisdom and action that could be very positive and take us in the direction that we need to go to be a better place, to continue to lead the world. America is the best place to live as far as I'm concerned, but it could be better, especially if our young black boys were not subject to the early retirement from the normal flow of civilization and forced into a pattern that takes them from the high referrals, suspensions in school. Young, brilliant young men come to school, have teachers who are threatened and disturbed by their actions and activities. And folks, now when a young man goes to school and gets in trouble, when I was a young man, we go to the principal's office, might get some swats. That was wisdom learning. It wasn't bad. I earned every swat I ever received. But however, now when the kids go to school, get into a little mismatch or problem at school, they can go to jail. They get a police record. They can get started toward, hey, if you got a police record, it's kind of hard to get a job, right? If you're getting referrals at school and getting sent instead of to the principal's office, you've got jail potentially. You don't want to go to school. And if you don't go to school, you're called a dropout. And if you drop out, you're definitely going to have a hard time getting a job. If you don't have a job, you need to eat. You need to clothe yourself. So what happens? Maybe you get involved in some crime. And if you get involved in some crime, you're definitely not going to get a job. Now you're going to have listen, black men died 10 years earlier than white men. There's stress. We have a state of emergency that affects not just the men that I've just discussed, the black men, but the world that depends on these men. Oh, you may be aware of some great athletes, but you're probably not told about the great scientists, the great contributions that black people make, have made, and will make despite, not because of, but despite the lack of support. America, the world benefits when we take advantage of the brilliance of humanity. And we're missing much of it because of the way we are not taking advantage of how we can teach our young black boys to feel the type of excitement about life, to contribute, to extend themselves beyond the things you normally see, the great basketball player, the great musician, the great teacher, the great radio host, whatever. But we're missing something, folks, if we don't take advantage of our children. I have two people in the studio today. One, Miss Rena Police. You are familiar with her. We've been with Miss Police off and on for the last 5-6 years. We've seen her career move from one position on to another. We're proud to announce now that she has her master's degree.
Thank you, Wallace.
And she has done that in pursuit of her first love, which was doing hair.
Yes, I'm a cosmetologist. I'm a licensed cosmetologist and a barber. So I have an extensive career as an occupational educator and occupational facilitator.
And now you've gone on to get your master's degree, and now you're in a position to do much more.
Yes.
It's interesting what occurs with titles. To my left, I have Dr. Byron Briggs. Mm-hmm. He is also well-educated. So, folks, I'm cushioned today. I'm in a position to talk as crazy as I want to and get corrected. Dr. Briggs, the situation that I described in terms of our state of emergency and how our young men are and how America is losing as a result of this, you have an attitude about that. You have information about that. As a matter of fact, you're involved with the Woodard Academy, where I've heard you brag quite extensively about the fact that the problems of other schools have become inspiration and tools for the growth of your young men at your school.
Correct. And, Mr. Allen, this has been an extensive career for me in education. This is my 26th year. So, I truly learned through experience. And what I encountered is that working at the elementary school, middle school, and high school level and college level, as well as being a teacher, counselor, assistant principal, working at the district level, and also back
Sounds
at the
like
site.
You qualified, don't it, folks?
Well, but one of the things that I really find is that I spent the majority of my career in high school. And in high school, when kids get to me in the 9th grade and they have deficits in their reading and math, they're not going to go to class. They are going to be the ones that come to my office as an administrator. For a teacher, those are the ones that are problematic. For the police, those are the ones that are ditching and committing crimes. So, I said, let's look at it another way. And let's go back and retool and go to elementary school. And now I'm at an elementary school, I see that there are many kids who come to us in the 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade with deficits in their learning. And when they have those gaps in those learnings, those are the kids that want to act out. So they're not acting out because they want to, because they're inherently bad. They're acting out because they don't want to be embarrassed in class.
I'm embarrassed to say that I've got a couple of puppies, dogs that have weaseled their way into my heart well before I realized that was going to occur, and I haven't properly house trained them. So my frustration is, who should I be mad at? The little dogs who don't know any better? Or is it my problem? Is it because I haven't stepped up and done what I'm supposed to do to train my puppies? And I'm not trying to, I can't help. Well, we're educating, so I'm I guess associating training my dogs with how we teach our kids. If I don't take my responsibility and train my dogs, that means I'm a pooper scooper in my own house.
That is correct.
If I'm a teacher at school and I'm not able to train and effectively teach my students, I send them to jail.
But
that's what occurs if I don't actually do my job. It's very harmful, and it harms not just me and my house like it does if I don't train my dog. If we don't train and properly teach these children, we affect not just their parent, not just the school, but all of society. All of society either reaps a reward or we pay the penalty when we don't work with these children and take our part as the village, as whatever aspect of the village it has to be.
That is correct.
But teachers and parents end up with a heavier responsibility on this. When we send our kids to school, we expect that the teacher being paid, the one that says, I know how to do this, is going to take charge of that situation. Is that the correct attitude? Or when we send our kids to school, what do you expect out of a parent? How do you want a parent to interact with your students?
What I found out throughout my career is that many parents failed in school. So when they come to school, they don't want to come to school because they fear that you're going to talk down to them. So my thing has always been, let me bring the parents in and ask the parents if I can teach you how to help your child at home and make it simple and non-threatening for the parent. That's why, as you know, we opened up our school and we had the Taste of San Bernardino. Just to bring parents in to let them, just to bring parents in to let them see that school is not threatening. We can be a fun place also. But I go back and I say, I want you all to think about Common Core. Common Core is one of the best things that could have happened because it lets you see where your child is. And when your child earns a grade, it's a grade in which they earned, and you can attach it to a standard. And you can always go home and ask your child, do you know 3 plus 3? Because that's a standard. And if they don't, you come back to the school. It's not the teacher's fault. It's the administrator's fault. It's the school leadership's fault that fails kids.
I had a person tell me once that as we were discussing the importance of sales, because we don't make any money if we don't sell anything. And I was discussing how, some salespeople, and I was quickly interrupted and told by this person that there's no such thing as a bad salesman. Mm-hmm. There's only bad sales managers.
Yes.
And so what you just said is, okay, there may be bad teachers, but they continue to exist because of bad administrators.
That's correct.
And I would say, excuse me, and I would totally agree with that. My training is instructional science. And what we're really talking about is...
Can we take this music break? And when we come back, Miss Police, could we get you then to... go further into what you're talking about here.
Thank you, Wallace. I would
okay,
love to.
We're moving into the realm of solution, but we do have to allow the solution of commercial to take place here. We need our money. And the Mood Master is here, folks. I know you've been missing. That bass drum, that bass music in the background, but he's here, and right after the break, he'll be all set up and ready to go. We'll be right back after this break, and we'll be hearing what Miss Rena Police has to say about our situation with educating our people, so that we can all benefit from living in a better world. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We'll be right back.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
For more local radio every day, tune into KCAA Loma Linda.
All right, we're back, and I hope that you are too. But if you aren't finished, hopefully you're on 832-999-1050, and you took your phone with you, and you're right there listening, despite the fact that you're busy out in the garden planting those tomatoes and peas, which is a good time to do that, and it's something that you'll be happy about in 3 to 4 months. So go on and do that work, but remember, turn the radio up or turn the phone up so you can hear what we're talking about. This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen. We are today discussing how we can end that state of emergency, or at least interrupt part of it, as we look forward to correcting the episode that involves our young men getting suspended from school and referred to the police as a result of little incidents at school. We need to keep these geniuses on the genius track as opposed to moving them toward the prison track. So we want to talk now to Miss Rena Police. Before the break, we were saying that whose fault is it? The administrator's fault or the teacher's fault? And I think you were about to make the point of that they have to work together.
Well, we're all responsible ultimately. But at the end of the day, see, as an occupational facilitator, I get the adults once they've been failed or once they failed themselves in the public sector. So that's why I pursued my master's in instructional science is to find out how to fill that gap between what's happening in the primary schools and occupations, because at the end of the day, when the student finishes school, they still have to work. And college is not for everybody. BAs, masters, doctors, those are not for everybody. So we have to find something that suits the person that has to just make a living. So the thing is it administrators? Is it the parents? Who is responsible? I'm going to say it's the top. I'm going to say that we have to find some kind of way to identify each child, each person as who they are, and put in place what's called personalization, personalized study, personalized curriculum, and personalized lesson plans. But then that takes more time too, Wallace, because...
Well, we've got time.
Well, it takes time for the school to find out, okay, who is this child? Why are they hungry? Are they cold? What's going on in their household that this child is not able to succeed at home? And then we have to address all that. Let me tell you.
Let's check with Mr. Briggs here in terms of what kind of data do you pull on your students in order to help facilitate that teacher's overall understanding, not of just what's going on in front of them in the classroom, but is there some type of background profile or social profile that you're able to use to help the teacher look at each student beyond what they're able to simply see in classroom?
First, I'm going to say I agree with everything what Ms. Police said, everything, because that is how you get to know the whole child and you begin to work with the whole child. One of the things in which we believe is that you have to have what's called small learning communities, where you break a large school down and make it smaller in chunks, so everyone becomes personal and it's like a small family. So now, on our first day of school, we brought all the parents in. Also, a few weeks later, we brought all the parents in again and broke down all of the assessments in which we went over with their kids and asked the parents, now, what can you tell me about your child and help us better help your child? So now we bridge the gap between home and school.
And these are one-on-one sessions.
One-on-one sessions. Mm-hmm. Well, 1-on-3 because I'm involved.
Yes.
So we've got the parents on one side, the school on the other, and the kid in the middle, and we tend to squeeze that kid together and embrace that kid and wrap around. So now that we know everything about the kid, when a kid checks into our school, I'm the contact person, and I get to know that kid, that family, that parent. I call the kid's previous school, and I get the data from that school. I talk to the counselors, the teachers, the administrators, whoever it may be. So now I can take that information back to our teachers, and we can better help that kid. And I'm going to say that for the first time in my career, I've been at a school, and we've had 0 suspensions.
0 suspensions.
0 suspensions.
Now, in order for us to relate to how important that is, there's some statistics that I'm aware of that the San Bernardino Unified School District,
yes.
You gave me the list.
Yes.
Would you describe that list and tell people what's on the list?
Well, the first thing is that some say that it's a myth that the data from the 3rd grade is used to build prison beds. That is not a myth.
The so-called urban myths, teachers' myths, and a story that people who are concerned about what occurs in our schools have been making the statement that prisons are able to plan the growth of the prison and the development of prisons based on the statistics of what's going on in 3rd grade. So they are able to decide to not. So we see a problem in 3rd grade with young black boys, and so we decide to start building prisons for them as opposed to special education incentives or anything of that sort.
I'm going to go back to what Ms. Police said, and I know you wanted to say something, Ms. Police, but that is where we need to rectify the problem. And the problem occurs in 3rd grade because in kindergarten, everything is tangible. One egg plus 1 egg equals 2 eggs. 2nd grade, it's the same. But when you get to the 3rd grade, things become abstract. X plus Y equals 5. And if I have no idea of my alphabet, yet alone my addition, I have no, X and Y mean nothing to me. And now I'm lost. So what am I going to do when it's math time?
I'm not going to pay attention.
And I'm going to hit you.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get kicked out of the class. And I'm going to be sent to the principal, and now become a behavioral problem. But if you start looking at statistics, you'll see that where the kids' deficits are, you'll see that kid gets kicked out of class at the same time every day. So instead of, as Ms. Police said, individualizing or differentiating the instruction so that our kids can better learn, we generalize it and let that happen as administrators.
Let me become one of these people who is a successful person but has no children and very small family, so no nieces and nephews. And so when I hear this situation you just described, I'm saying, well, hey, how come the kid in 1st and 2nd grade didn't pick up? Maybe this guy's supposed to be, the element that feeds our jail system. Them guys need a job.
No kid is inherently bad, and all kids can learn. It's how we teach our kids.
Right. It's not that the kid fails to learn. It's that we really fail to teach the kid.
Yes.
So if the kid is not cutting the score, it's us. We have to step back and look and see how does this kid think? How does this kid learn? How does this kid process information? We have to think about how their comfort.
Yes.
Because you talked about earlier too, it's the whole child. What we're talking about is holistic education. We cannot teach a child to separate them from everything else that's going on in their life. And it's also interesting what you talk about in the third grade as third graders. Recently, I was principal for a day in one of the local unified school districts, and I had an opportunity to sit with a panel of doctors there who are actually working with kids in the third grade, because their studies find that kids start internalizing what goes on in their house then in third grade more than prior to that, and they start shutting down. And these are the kids that have higher problems as they go on. So let me tell you what their strategy is to approach that. Their strategy is to give these kids yoga, and they have therapy. So they're dealing with this child's psyche. They're dealing with this child's emotion, and they're telling this kid, no, hey, you can learn that whatever's going on in your home is not your fault. It's okay. You could come here and think freely. So I just think it's incredible that we have to even deal with the way a child feels first and say, hey, you're okay as a person. It's not your fault what's going on here. Come here and learn. And until we can approach the kid that way and work with this learner that way, they will not learn.
Exactly.
Many people will say, why do we need to make all of these changes in the approach? But these are the same people that are using cell phones today, whose grandmother didn't even have a phone.
Yes.
People that are using computers, just everything has gone so technical, and information has become so much more available. If we don't take advantage of that information, if we don't take advantage of these new ideas, yoga's not new, nor is the idea of relaxing your mind so that you can
think.
But when we have more time, because of technology, more time to consider how to do things, it's wise to do such. I hear you, Dr. Briggs, speak of the importance of data in order to know what's going on.
Correct.
To create a direction. School teachers, schools have had data for years, but they haven't had computers that could process data. But what are some of the things that you're able to look at to help set a direction for the child, help maintain information about where they are, and be able to use that to make changes? First and second grade, they're getting grades, they're getting some type of assessments, but third grade things change because there's more information expected from the child, because there's more information available to the child, because the child is smarter. He's starting to understand some of those innuendos that mom and dad could speak above the child. Now mom and dad are spelling words that the kids can understand.
No.
They're hearing little jokes that they've heard enough to know that, whoa, wait a minute, there's a little color to that I didn't understand. So they're starting to get things. And how do we alert the parent to that how do you keep these relationships or create these growing relationships with parents when parents are not necessarily inclined to grow?
Well, I'm going to go back. The data is there from kindergarten, first grade, and second grade. We just don't take that data, unpack it, and use that data to drive us. We often dismiss that. Little Byron in the kindergarten does not know his alphabet, but I'm going to move him to the first grade. Now, we've already got a deficit there. And if I don't know my alphabet in the kinder and I move to the first grade, I'm going to have a difficult time with sound and blend. So now I'm going to struggle with reading. So now I struggle with reading, and they say it's going to catch up in the second grade, but it doesn't. But that data was there. I just failed to look at it and process that data. So the problems are there, the data is there, but what we need to do with the parents is let the parents know that we're doing all that we can to help your child, and we're going to be honest with you. And we
the
need
data's
you to help
there.
Us. Yes.
But recognizing it and recognizing the importance of the data is something that we need to work on. We're going to take a short break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to figure out why some of the first indicators that we have of the fact that our children are reading is because they see that McDonald's sign, and they say, "Oh, McDonald's," and you find my kids read that. We need to figure it out before then, folks. We'll be right back and talk about how right after this break.
Just waiting for the sun to go down.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
You're listening to KCAA, your good neighbor along the way.
In the park, just waiting for the sun to go down.
Empire Talks back, Wallace Allen, on the case for truth and justice with the right information to help improve the situation. So you're riding down the street with your child, maybe 3 or 4 kids in the car, and you're getting ready to pass one of those famous, it could be McDonald's, Carl's Jr., Taco Bell, all of those people that are not paying me at all to name them. I'm willing to change that. We could make a deal. Just give us a call, 909-384-8131. We can make a deal, and I'm not Donald Trump, but I will make a deal. So when your kid looks up and announces that as we're riding down the Highland Avenue, and says, "Oh, McDonald's," and you say, "Oh, my baby's reading." And I've said that, "Oh, look, little Wallace's 6 is reading." That's my grandson, 6 Wallaces. I slipped that in. I'm real proud of that.
You did.
And so they're not reading.
No.
Dr. Briggs, you're telling me my grandson, when he sees that's not really reading.
That's name recognition.
Name recognition.
And decoding.
Kind of like what people are doing when they say Donald Trump.
It.
Name recognition.
Name recognition.
Coding of remembering what he said he was in the commercial. Very good.
But reading is when you comprehend what you read. You have to comprehend it and be able to process it. That's when you're reading. But if you're just calling off words, that's just decoding. That is not reading.
That means that they can see and hear and absorb. And we already know that because the first time you heard them use the same word that you used when you broke hit your thumb with the hammer.
Yes.
Yeah. Then you. Yeah. Right. They have good memories and they can say these things.
Yes.
How do we move them or use this evidence of coding that shows that they're ready for? Is coding good? Or is that bad?
Decoding is good. It's good when you can decode.
Okay.
But it's not reading. That's a kindergarten skill. And in first grade, when you work with sight words. But now you have to be able to process the meaning of the words, to process the sentence, process the paragraph, and process the story.
Mm-hmm, because that coding is also called signaling.
Yes.
And that's the beginning way to teach, where you just learn to recognize certain things.
Yes.
And what it also makes me think of is something that we hear all the time, where people say knowledge is power. Where if I recognize that sign, that's knowledge. Mm-hmm. But knowledge is power, but knowledge should be empowering. Like if I see that sign and it just whatever it is, if I can't make it into something, if I can't use that information to construct it to new knowledge to grow, then it's not empowering me. And so even if the kid can see it, know what it is, they're not stronger because of it. So what we have to do from that point is try to figure out how that kid recognizes that signal or that code and connect it to what they know, and then it becomes information.
And I'm going to use that point to trigger this story, because I had a parent, we were talking, and the kid is in the 6th grade, and he could not read. But the parent was telling me that my kid reads Star Wars to me every night. And here's a book. So now we're sitting in a parent conference. It's myself, the school psychologist, the parent, and the student. So I asked the student, break out your book and read it to me. Mm-hmm. The kid struggled. But when he closed the book, he could tell me everything that went on in Star Wars. So the parent took that as a kid reading. The kid was just remembering what transpired in the movie because Star Wars was also his favorite movie.
Gotcha.
So then what we could do is use Star Wars or elements of Star Wars, and as an instructional designer, I would design a multimedia thing with particular Star Wars things in it to intrigue this kid and also to inspire his intrinsic motivation, right? And that would inspire him to learn. Maybe this other kid won't be inspired by that module, by that Star Wars, but this kid is, and that's what's important.
I agree, but now we have to be honest with the parents, and the parents have to be willing to accept the truth. In this case, the parent wasn't, because the parent checked their kid out because their report card for 6 years or for 5 years had been attached to nothing. The grades were just arbitrarily given.
And they were good grades.
They were good grades.
Parents like those grades.
Yes. So now when I bring standards, a standards-based learning, and I say your kid can't read, and I can put your reading score to a grade level, and I say that your kid is reading
so
at
now
the
you're
first
getting ready to
grade
give my
level.
son a D
Yes.
in reading,
Yes.
and he's
Yes.
been getting B's.
Yes.
And we could read the B's together.
Because the system lied to you, and me as an administrator previously was lying to you and your child along the way and telling you that your kid could read because there was no standard that you can look at and say that my kid is reading at this level, because we don't want to be honest with parents.
Exactly. You know, and I was going to ask, excuse me, I'm so sorry. I was going to ask, I find that same kid that seems to be reading that's not reading is the same kid that can dance every dance that there is, that can sing every single song on the radio, but when you ask them to count or something, they can't. So what I would say to that is, if this kid can learn those dances, learn those songs, some parents misconstrue that as a different level or type of intelligence. It is a type of intelligence, but how come we can't use that same type of medium, music, and so forth, to teach the kid? Because go ahead,
Miss Police, I'm going to reach out and shake your hand because we're there. Because we brought in two doctors at Woodward, Dr. Roy Holyfield and Dr. Woody Jackson, and they are teaching our kids math. And I'm not talking about simple math. They're teaching our kindergartners multiplications. Our kindergartners know how to multiply up to 7.
Which brings me to several questions. One, a story about the conspiracy that students will go through with their artificial teachers. I was taking music lessons, trumpet lessons.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't tell Anthony that because he'd expect I could play the trumpet. But I didn't study my trumpet lessons, and when I get to the music lesson, it was obvious to my instructor that I hadn't studied, but, my dad was sending $10. I gave him the $10. And he'd sit there for a few minutes and say, you haven't been practicing. So why don't you go practice?
Mm-hmm.
But he never kicked me out.
Mm-hmm.
He never sent a report to my dad that said, Mr. Allen, you keep on sending me these $10. I'm going to keep on saying that he's doing okay. What occurred was I got kicked out of the band. You guys got me confessing in here. Anyway, I got kicked out of the band and didn't tell my mother, didn't tell my dad. But I got kicked out of the band because I couldn't play. And then I got a note. Well, I kept going to band practice, but instead of going into practice, I was standing outside.
Yeah. Wow.
Conspiracy. The band instructor, they knew all of that. Gave me a note to take home to my parent, just like if so, I was there. And I had to read the note, and the note reminded him that we were having a recital. And that your son's going to be playing in the recital.
Right.
Oh, man, that was the first time I ran away from home. But anyway, long story short, I have a daddy. Once again, I'm Wallace the Fourth. That means it's Wallace the Third, and he don't play no games because he remembered Wallace the Second.
Yeah.
So that's why we got a Wallace the Sixth, because we keep this little responsibility thing going on. They do not miss their music lessons and things of that sort. But there's a conspiracy. I was a willing participant as a child in that I'm going to pretend that I'm learning things. And
well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because a lot of us pretend because we don't want to be embarrassed.
Yes.
And then people have certain expectations of us, and I have to say this again. I start teaching adults from usually 10th grade. They come to occupational school usually 10th graders, and they can read. You would be surprised at the 10th graders that cannot read. So here's a person trying to get an occupation, and we have to teach them to read. One of the big companies that just closed down, a big beauty school just closed closed down. And I tell you, one of the reasons that the Department of Education closed them down is because they falsified students' academic level. They accepted students in that should have been 10th graders who were not even 10th graders. I mean, come on now, we can't get 10th graders.
And you're supposed to be able to read those.
And you're supposed to be able to read. You're supposed to be able to do chemistry. You're supposed to be doing some geometric.
You start putting chemicals on people's hair, we would hope is because you could read the formula and know exactly what you were doing.
Exactly,
right?
but these people were allowed to get through. So I don't know.
And I'm gonna go back and say that's where Common Core and standards-based learning comes in, because with Common Core, there are a set of standards that you must know at that grade level.
I'd like to interrupt you and get you to speak specifically about an example. And that example, I'd like for it to be Woodard Academy.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been at Woodard Academy?
This is my first year at Woodard.
How long has Woodard Academy been in existence?
This is the 4th year of the school.
What was the conditions and status of the school when you were hired, in terms of the relationship with the school district and the record that the school had with the school district?
I would say that it would mimic that of President Obama coming in his first year as president. There were deficits all over. There were a large number of suspensions. With 100 kids, there were more than 80 suspensions. Students were not learning. Teachers were
pretty much mirroring the basic public school system.
That is correct. That is correct.
Which is not good, folks. It's not.
It's
not something to be proud of, but it's something that we exist with. And much like my daddy kept sending the $10 because he didn't know any better to my music teacher. But
at this time, we are no longer in a financial hole. Academically, our kids are striving.
Now wait a minute. You started. This is your first year.
That is correct.
I would assume that means last September.
Yes.
Okay, and you're telling me that in
7 months, 6 months,
6 months,
a semester and a half.
Correct.
We've gone from gone from where to where?
Woodward. There's something. The district for charter schools has something called an interim report. There are 3 interim reports a year, and that's when you give a snapshot of your school over to the district. For 11 of the 12 interim reports, we were non-proficient. We were near closing.
I hope we were saying that you were near being closed.
Being closed.
That's what I mean.
Being closed.
Okay, and I'm saying that based on the fact I expect my school district to protect my children, and if they're non-performing schools, regardless of where they come from, they should be
closed down.
Something should be done about it.
And that is the case. And what occurred is that
I don't know how many Dr. Briggses we have to, but
I came in and we changed a number of we changed the face of our school. The face of our school has changed. We are now a school where our kids are learning. Again, we have 0 suspension. Our teachers are coming to work. Our average daily attendance, meaning the number of days or a number of students in which we have coming, is at 98.2%.
How does that compare to
the regular district or where we were? We were somewhere around the 84.
Okay.
So what I did is made learning fun and made the kids believe in themselves. Every morning when we come together, we had something where our kids were not turning in homework. This is just an example. Where they were not turning in homework, they were not understanding, test scores were low. So I said, let's flip our school day. So now we do homework in the morning from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Now we have 99% of our kids turning in homework, completed homework. With that, teachers can go around and help our kids because we do it in our cafeteria.
How long were you there? How long into the semester was it before you instituted that change?
Just the second semester. Because I was new. I had to see what the climate was and why our kids weren't making it, as opposed to just coming in and making drastic changes automatically.
Right, you had to do some analysis,
yes.
some
and that's where data comes in.
Yes.
And pulling my data, reading my data, unpacking that data, and explaining it to my teachers so that they understand, and explaining it to the students and
we're going to take a short break. And we're going to come back, and we are now going to pull all of this together. We've discussed the problem. We've discussed magnificently the potential solutions so that we don't grow and continue to grow bad fruit and allow it to get bad in front of us and then wonder why it doesn't taste good when we bring it to the table. Our children represent our future.
Yes.
And we have an example at Woodard Academy, right
Yes.
in the city of San Bernardino, right smack dab in the middle of the Inland Empire, willing to be an example for any school on the planet.
Yes.
A situation where we've turned young men who were getting 80 suspensions a year
Yes.
into where they are getting no suspensions and they are getting good grades. And we've got much more to talk to you about right after this short break. And folks, come back with your pen and pencil. You're going to want to write something down. You're going to want to remember something. You've got a niece, a nephew, you've got a child somewhere that is probably not getting the level of education that they need and that you and I want for them. So be prepared to figure out how to find a school similar to what we're going to be discussing right here on Empire Talks Back right after this break. Stick around.
Let her face at first just go sleep. Turn the wider shade of pale.
Publish your legal notice in West Side Story newspaper. For the best service and the best rates, call 909-384-8131. Publishing legal notices in the city and county of San Bernardino since 1990. West Side Story provides friendly expert service. Call 909-384-8131 to benefit from budget-friendly rates. Whether a fictitious business name, a name change, a divorce summons, or any other legal or public notice, call West Side Story newspaper 909-384-8131. 909-384-8131. That's 909-384-8131.
E-Digits. Lock them in for more information, recreation, and guaranteed fun. KCAA.
Not let her be one of 16 Vestal virgins.
This is Empire Talks Back. I'm Wallace Allen, and we're talking about reinforcing good experiences. You know, things that happen well for you, you want to do them. You want to do them over and over again. If you've ever been walking around and found some money on the ground, legitimately found some money, I don't mean in your mama's purse and all that stuff. I mean legitimately found some money, I dare say that you did not ever walk in that spot again without looking down, hoping you find the rest of the money that you didn't find when you found the money that you did find.
Correct.
It was a good experience. You found some money, and if you ever do that and you find some more money in the same spot, oh my goodness. Now that's what we're calling reinforcement. It's like, I know a young man who, upon turning 21, actually went to the casino and won some money. Took him a long time, but not a very long time, to figure out that, no, this is not the way. It is not that easy as I thought. But reinforcing, getting kids to understand that, hey, this is the right way to go, getting teachers to understand this is the right way to go. You've been very successful. We're talking to Dr. Byron Briggs, who is the principal, the headmaster at Woodard Academy here in the Inland Empire. And he's had some good experience that allowed him to bring a great attitude and teaching experience to Woodard Academy. And the results are outstanding. You recently had an event which invited the community to your school. It was a Taste of San Bernardino.
Correct.
Is that what it was called?
That is correct.
Taste of San Bernardino?
Taste of San Bernardino, correct.
Man, that's a pretty good name. You're going to do that again?
You know, we plan to do that annually.
Did you put a little C on it or TM on it as you did it?
No, we did not.
But if you keep doing it, you won't need that.
Yeah, that is correct, because it will be ours.
Okay.
It will be ours. And ours as in the community of San Bernardino.
Now, see, what I'm looking at here is, as you described that event, there are, as Ms. Police pointed out, there are vocational aspects of learning. There are vocational opportunities that won't necessarily be exposed to our children.
That is correct.
Until maybe they're in high school and somebody says, well, you know, you don't seem to be liking chemistry too well. Maybe you need to become a welder, as if becoming a welder is not a good, you know, not a good choice. How do we expose our young folks to these kind of opportunities? Your Taste of Soul, I think, represents one of those kinds of things, and we'll talk about that. But tell us the status of your school, how well the kids are doing. Brag about Woodard Academy.
You know, we went from having 86 students to now we're at 140. So our students are coming in not because, we got this fabulous facility, because we don't. They come in because learning is taking place, they feel comfortable, and they know that there are safety nets all around them to help them. Parents are not talked down to. Parents come in, it's a home for parents. It's a home away from home, and we educate parents also. So when parents come into the school, they're educated as well. So, I want to give you one story. There's a student, and I call him D1 because it's two. It's his name. His name starts with a D, and he has a younger brother that starts with a D, so it's D1 and D2. So D1 was in the computer lab on last
It's okay
week.
for the principal to do that as long as the parent doesn't. We're okay with that.
Okay. So, he breaks down and starts crying when it's time for math. So the teacher is like, "What's wrong?" So I bring him over to my office and I start talking to him. And he says, "I'm scared." I'm like, "Why would you be scared? Because every math problem that you've been doing in the last 3 weeks has been perfect." He says, "Because the learning has come so fast, I can explain it, and I don't know what's going on because I haven't learned this much in 3 years of my life." So he's scared.
Yes.
So he does not know how to embrace all of that learning that's taking
Success.
place.
Mm-hmm.
Because, exactly, our kids are not accustomed to success. But when they come to Woodward, they get success. So I say to all parents, if you have a kid out there that's struggling from grades kinder to 6th grade, bring them to Woodward. We teach them. They will not struggle. That's what our school does. We empower students. We play this song every morning after homework. You've got to come and hear it. It's "I Believe I Can Fly." And we play the instrumental, and our kids sing the song. I turn the music down, and they're singing it a cappella. I'm saying to myself, I can't believe I have
That's
to walk
beautiful.
away.
That's beautiful.
Because
Are you
I start
teaching
crying.
music? Do you have music class over there too?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, we can work that out.
But our kids are learning so much, and we plan to expose our kids to science, math, technology, and engineering, as well as the arts next year.
I'm wondering how parents who might be listening to the show, parents who have young children, I'm wondering if parents might have any questions about Woodward School or the learning experience that you present there. I've got Mr. Evans on the phone. I'd like to allow him to ask a question, but I'd also like any parents who've got young kids to think about any question they may have, and we'll see if we can entertain that too. Mr. Evans is on the line. How are you this morning, Mr. Evans?
Well, all I can tell you is that this is very
The guitar's plugged up.
inspiring to hear that this kind of activity is going on and producing these kinds of results.
Very good. Very good. Did you have any additional question? Because I do have a couple of parents that have just walked in the studio that may have a question in this regard. Do you have any questions, Ms. Zumar? You do? Very good. Slide over here to the table. And what are your impressions? And tell us first of all about your children. How old are your kids?
7, about to be 8, and 1.
Okay, and the 7-year-old is your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the 1-year-old is your son.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and what are your concerns for your son?
My son, because he's 1 and runs and falls into everything right now, is less concerning as my daughter.
Okay.
My biggest concern for my daughter, via her teacher, is her comprehension. So her being able to really understand what she's reading is what we're working on the most right now. So, I mean, in what way would you be able to, if I uproot her from her school, what are you going to be able to do for her?
One of the first things that we would do is take a true assessment of where she is and find out where she is and then develop a curriculum that fits her needs. Okay. But in doing so, I like to sit down because I've been a reading specialist and a math specialist throughout my career. Mm-hmm. So some of the kids at Woodward, I've taught to read within
minutes.
Yes.
And with it,
okay.
within minutes.
Yes.
Brag, Briggs. Tell
me.
Within 15 minutes. And then teaching them the comprehension portion of it does not take a lot, because the trick of it is that you have to talk the story out to the kid and make them talk it to you, sentence by sentence, so that then they can start piecing it together and it becomes a big puzzle that they now can understand, as opposed to just throwing the pieces out there or the words and saying, tell me what this means. And it's a paragraph or a story. No, you tell me what this sentence means, and if you struggle with this word, I'm going to tell you what this word is, and I'm going to tell you the definition, and then you're going to go look it up, as well as write it down, because now that's a word that goes into your vocabulary bank. So now you're able to build on this and read from this. So you understand the sentence, and when you understand the sentences, you can understand that paragraph. When you understand the paragraph, you understand the sentence.
Yeah, because then what you're also doing is you're involving the child in his own education. And see, the more senses that a child brings to the learning, the more of the senses that are involved in that learning, the more of the responsibility that child can personally take and say, hey, I'm responsible for looking up this word. I'm responsible for going back and explaining this. The more active you put that kid, that learner, into their own learning, the more solid that learning is and the more committed it is to long-term memory.
How hard is it to transfer into Woodward Academy? What's involved in that? And have you made a video yet of, it's only take about 15 minutes to make a video of you showing somebody that you can teach a kid how to read. Is that something that you'd be interested in doing?
I have a number of vignettes on my phone that we plan to put together, to spool together and make a short video. And to transfer into Woodward, I tell parents, and I told you, and everyone else, just come to our address and call me when you're outside and say, I'm here and I want to take a tour of your school. I don't want to prepare or have to think that you think that I'm preparing. My parents always told me, if my room is clean, I don't have to worry about cleaning up when company comes.
Tell people how to get in touch with you.
Our address is 177 West Baseline in San Bernardino, or you can give us a call at 909-266-1762, or you can Google Woodward Leadership Academy in San Bernardino.
This is the quickest hour on radio, folks, and I do appreciate the fact that you decided to spend some time with us, and we want to thank everybody. That's Miss Zumar that you were hearing. She's going to be working with us. She's going to be working to produce the show. Her husband is here with us, and the father of these wonderful, beautiful children, and hopefully we're going to get them on video demonstrating our learning technique. But folks, the main thing that we want you to remember is that it takes a village. We want you to remember that though it may be my child.
And what is the role of the parents in the academy?
It's my child, and he's also your child. When he does things that makes me proud and makes you proud, that's great. But if my child goes bad, you're just as much a recipient of the problem as I am. So we all have to stick together and raise these kids. That's my attitude on it, and hopefully that's yours. It does take a village to raise a child. We want to thank you for being here. Remind you we'll be here next week under two circumstances. One, if the good Lord's willing. Two, if the creek don't rise. God bless you. Thank you for being here.
There's been so many things that held us down, but now it seems like things are...
You're listening to KCAA, Loma Linda, California. The best station in the nation.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
The season is underway. I'm Jeff Nathanson. Major League Baseball debuting today. The first game already in progress. The Pirates leading the Cardinals in Pittsburgh by a score of 2-0. They're in the top of the third inning. Later on, it's the Toronto Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays. Chris Archer against Marcus Stroman there. Tonight, it's a World Series rematch. The Mets take on the Royals. That's the last game tonight, a triple-header for Major League Baseball's opening day. And then 12 games on the schedule tomorrow. Some of them will be in cold weather cities. Spring has not sprung across the U.S. quite yet. What's going on in baseball? Let's start with the left and the right coast. On the right coast, the Yankees getting ready to play on Monday, weather permitting. Alex Rodriguez says this year's roster is pretty good.
We have a veteran team. We have some youth. We have a good combination, diversity in our roster. And we're deep.